All right, morning everyone. Well, we have another pullback in the market, another gap down, day two of the gap down. You can see where we wind up closing at these levels and opening up at newer low levels. Well, they did it to us again last night. Continuation. For this larger pattern that is starting to show a little bit of development here, we needed this pullback for this to happen in order for us to have any type of decent rally back up. I like to say premature rally, but at the same time, we have now starting to get news that these larger labs like your LabCorp made an announcement yesterday, and Quest is supposed to be putting out information today that they are now ready for mass distribution of the testing of the virus. So to get ahead of it for the market purpose, it would make a lot more sense for us to have a rally, and then as the results start and the doom and gloom starts coming in, that we've actually got a lot more Americans that are affected than we realize, that we could have that bearish pattern do completion and actually have the pullback later off of it. It looks like we're doing a pullback here. We could be basically just doing a basic bear flag, but usually these the way that they play the game is they don't do basic patterns and stuff. They use a little bit more advanced patterns whenever they're playing with these systems. So more or less what I'm looking for is a pullback down to the 291.44 level. That's the first area pretty much of a starting basing right here. We're already kind of getting that already. We didn't quite hit it to the penny, but we're down here at the 202 level right here. So about a 75 cents higher, give or take, than I would like actually to pull. This is an average basing area. We could have room down to 288.68 and still be within the parameters of this pattern working out just fine for the setup to take place. So somewhere in this ballpark, I want us to settle down. Since we slowed down already at this time, I'm really more or less expecting a gap back up at the open. Because we had a large gap down, we have had no gap up. These prints we see right here, those are dark pool prints that came through, guys. That's institutions that are coming in with their late transactions from last night. They're now being reported as bringing up these prints up here to show what they did after hours last night or into the close last night. So we're starting to see the transaction flow that came in. I'm starting to feel that the way today's developing is that it is basically starting to repeat last Friday. I believe what's going to happen, we need to keep close eye on the traffic coming in from these institutions to see if they start building unusual traffic today. We start getting a good buildup up here, the 280, 298 level, the 300 level, right around this ballpark in that zone. That's going to basically just be another repeat of what we had last Friday. They're going to accumulate a massive position. They're going to wind up gapping us up into the close, and they will wind up opening up and pushing higher levels into Monday. This isn't taking place yet because this is more or less a foresight instead of a hindsight talk here. We can just completely just tank. I just don't see it that necessarily happening because we've got too much of a pattern that has kind of developed here off of our downside move. We got a decent pullback. We needed that B to C leg to complete. Just a matter, where is C going to be at? Is it going to stop here where I've got it drawn? Or are we going to go a little bit lower before we get that bounce? But either being said, we've got the pattern developing here. The push up, what I find a little bit hard to swallow here is how much the pattern's telling us that we can push up all the way back into the 328 level. I find that a little hard to swallow just because of all the doom and gloom we got in the news. But the patterns aren't lying right now. We are not in a fundamental market right this moment, guys. Fundamentals, throw it out the window. We're in a technical market. The fundamentals, everybody's scrambling trying to figure out what to do, off of everything. And they will come in. Don't get me wrong. They will come in and they will be important. But we need the stabilization to set in first, because right now we have panic and fear in the market right now. So technical is trumping fundamentals dramatically right now, because we're getting movements down to the decimal points in movements and accuracy levels here. And why that's happening is because whenever fundamentals gets tossed out, when you have major fear coming into a marketplace, the only thing people can rely on is technicals at that point. And so you'll see major points being moved. The computer systems are programmed at these levels to show these areas for our bounces and our takedowns and so on and so forth. And that's where we got to be very strong. That's why it's very important to be a technical trader, along with, if you want to do your fundamentals, and basically to be an all-around balanced trader, you need to have both. You don't want to be just a half-ass trader. You want to basically have both of it in order to be able to see moves ahead of time, know where they're taking it to, have less stressful times going. Because you look at this information, this doesn't look like this is terrible bad. We see this on an everyday basis. We see these type of patterns on intraday all the time. This is just a bigger picture that they're playing out. That's all this is right now. We start breaking down this low area that we had last Friday. We can still have a longer pattern to develop for the bounce. Honestly, I think it'd be better if we actually did pull back a little bit, even go sub that, give us a nice little cipher pattern, and we can actually have a pullback that would not be as high as this one. But that's fine. We can bounce in this area and we're just still good. If we break this low level, we still have our major support way down here at 272. That's going to be the major support. I frankly think we'll eventually hit that if we start getting massive problems here in the country. I think we will be down 272 in the market eventually. I don't see that happening today. No, I think we've already kind of settled down as it is. So let's just start looking for a little bit of a basing, start paying attention to the items just like we did Friday. We had that pullback, we had the pop, and we had another pull before we ran back up. So be very careful with this. Let's pay attention to the transmissions coming in up here and see if we start seeing a whole bunch of basing at that area, because that'll give us a little bit better insight that they did the same thing. Because all the transmissions that came in on Friday was up here at this higher level. It wasn't down here where we were trading majority of the day. It was at a higher level. And then they wound up popping us on Monday at higher ranges. So we could have a repeat of history here and stuff, but we got to be cautious. This is not a time to take a long position unless you actually see, it actually basing and giving it a curl, and you take scalps and stuff. You still got to be cautious, because you are going to be counter trend trading on this. So be very careful. My list is small today because frankly, the fundamentals, you can just throw it out the window. They don't matter as much. We've got a few, items that have got some decent news in here. Biggest one would be cost came in on their report. They basically beat lightly on EPS. They also beat on their revenue. And we've got, let's see if I can get this thing to zoom in. This thing's slowing down for some reason. We've got a nice basically drop down off of their earnings off of this area here. The key area with them is this 312. This 312 is the key area. They got to hold for this area for any continuation. We go sub 312, then you can start seeing the pull back down to 303, 304, right around that ballpark. So keep a close eye on them. They will be in play. They are going to, they report every 30 days their sales and stuff. So I think we'll probably see an increase on their next report because of the massive flooding of people coming in to the stores buying stuff for the virus issues. So I think this is one of the stocks that may be able to have the ability to have at least a temporary pop off of it because they're getting flooded in with additional new business that they normally would not get in coming into it. So be a little bit cautious on the downside, but I mean, I'd love to see the 304 touch and for a good dip buying opportunity for cost off of that. I don't want to see cost break 300. It's taken forever to get at that point on it. But if you start seeing that 312 hold, you can run it up because you do have a flag that is developing on this small downtrend over the last 24 hours or so. AMD, they came out with some talking about the impact of the virus. They see a very modest amount of that's going to affect their underlying the overall range that they've been playing into. Basically, had a investor conference yesterday. They were talking about it. They are reaffirming the guidance, so they're not changing their guidance. It's somewhat positive for them. So that's why we had a nice little pop last night, going through with that information. Now we've came back because of the market pulling back, so you're starting to get a pattern already developing here in pre-market. So look at this one for potential. If we get a pop in the market, I think you can see AMD is going to be one of your first ones I'll push up there, because they did have a somewhat of a positive impact on that news that came out. Starbucks came out with also talking about their guidance. Their guidance is basically showing a reflection of how they provided the update. They're saying that their stores in China are back up and operational right now. They are down because they were basically closed down for almost a month over there overall because of the Chinese sales transmission. So that is going to hurt their guidance somewhat, but they are back in business. They are gapping down based upon the news, and also because of the market pull. So start looking for some basing off of this one. Also, like I said, if all the market, if you start seeing the SPY starting to bounce, you can start seeing a potential dip buy in Starbucks off of that. Square, pretty much the same thing. They're talking about the impact that they've got going on with the virus. Exact same scenario, pretty much. It's bringing them down a little bit because they're going to start seeing some sales that are bringing them down a little bit. They are going in to their looks like their convertible notes that they're going to be they've been talking about, but just old news that came out about a week ago, just basically reaffirming that information is what they were talking about in their guidance report. So just look for the same thing, dip buying opportunity with this one here. I'd like to see them try to reclaim $75. That's going to be the key here. If they get above $75, you'll have a decent little gap. As long as they can't get above that, you're going to have this little sideways grind with them. They're not going to sink too terribly bad. One of the big ones is going to be Boeing. Boeing hasn't been down at this level in years. We were talking about it yesterday at the levels that we could actually see on it. And let's see if I have that on the right chart. I think that's on my other chart. Boeing has room down to 47 for our next drop zone. It is staying pretty heavy. Of course, we'll have a psychological at 250, but 247, we should start seeing a little bit of a basing bounce off of it. It does have room down into the 230s for major support. This is going to be like a light support, more of a projection level on the downside, because frankly, between the level of this 260 area and 230, there's no major support in the last couple of years. It's been basically just micro level support. We're at that point right now where it's going to be more psychological at the 250, and then of course we should see if we slip slightly below 250, 247, kind of start giving us a little bit of a basing area off of that. But Boeing did come out with a little bit of news yesterday afternoon saying that they're basically doing their test flight, which should be coming within a few weeks. They are bleeding, and they're trying to do anything they can to make an announcement to try to stop the bleeding, which any good company would do that. I mean, this is a crazy downside move for them. It's like, okay, with all the bad news they've had year long, why now all of a sudden? Well, we're coming up to also their 1-year anniversary of the planes going down within the next day or so. So that's not probably helping the situation either. Market pulling, just a whole lot of things starting to build up. Confidence level. People want to buy dip buying opportunities when it makes sense. Boeing is going to start making sense real quick for a dip buying opportunity for long-term investment purposes. It's just that we need this thing to slow down, and it's not ready for that time, because right now it's just a falling knife at this point. DR, I guess I drew this one out over here already. DRAD, we got earnings that came out. They did well on their earnings year over year. Their sales is up also. So they've pretty much knocked it out of the park with this one. It's a very crappily traded stock. I mean, not very liquid, just a real terrible looking chart in general. But when it comes to the big movers right now in the penny stocks, this is the one that's really getting the attention today. We are up into these levels of resistance. $7 is going to be kind of the push at the open. I'd like to see a pullback to around $4 for a better stabilization bounce. So just look at a bit more or less the price action between $7 and $4. I know that's a great range for y'all guys in the penny stock world, but realistically the dip buy should be $4. The topping needs to be around 7. 7 gets compromised. Of course, you're going to wind up getting your pushes up into the 8.25 level for a continuation and push off of that. This one's best to either play scalp only at momentum out of the gate, out of the open, or just wait for the dip buy within, say, 15 to 30 minutes into the trading day and see if you can get a nice little bounce off of it. Just make sure the liquidity is there. NMVC had some news that came out. This is kind of what I'd like to say, more like a pop and fade type news article came out, because this didn't come from the company. This came from a publication. Basically had a nice pop last night. We pulled them back. We're really not holding very well as far as the pop and the pull based off of why are we not continuing, because it didn't come from the company. The company needs to come out and reaffirm. The company comes out and reaffirm that this thing could start flying. So watch to see if they come out, because they may wake up this morning like, oh, why are we up? Okay, oh yeah, let's reaffirm that and make sure we stay up. So it is at a good basing level for the dip buy for a push. I'd like to see a little bit more continuation, because if there's a lot of substance on it other than what the article is stating, then this thing has potential of running. The liquidity is not there normally, so just play it if you see the price action come in it. And don't get too hung up on it as far as holding over the weekend, stuff like that, because we could have dramatic changes. The market starts rallying back up. We're going to start seeing these stocks pull back some before we have another move on them. So be careful with any of the virus ones, because if we start doing any type of major bounces in the market, you're going to start seeing them do a complete opposite reversal on you. You want to continue looking at your airlines, your cruise liners, the tech sector that's getting hit for any continuation plays and stuff. More or less just look for the hot stocks that have the most volatility in it to play today, because it's more of, like I said, a technical day than the fundamentals, because damn what the fundamentals say, it's all about which direction the stock is going. That's all it really comes down to. You need to play price action today and not be hell-bent, oh, they said this or said that. This is a day that you just need to pay what you see on the chart. Just get in, get out based upon what you're seeing in these areas on that. You know, when we slow down, let's get back into our fundamental side of biased opinions and stuff like that. But right now, this is just areas to it. And just because you see something moving dramatically down doesn't mean that it cannot bounce. So be very careful at your levels. Pay attention to your daily levels. That's going to be the key areas, because we're in that structured zone. Those are the areas it's going to be your major support resistance is going to hold, just like any other time, but we're going to have a lot more volatility moving around. We're at a high volatility right now inside of it. You got to be paying attention to that also with your options side. You're going to play the options. This is a great day to make a lot of money on side of the lotto side, as long as you get in quickly right before the pop and get out right before the pop slows down or the fade, either direction they're playing off of it. You don't want to get in there and get married too long, because we start grinding, waiting for the institutions to come in and make their big play for Monday, you're going to wind up getting killed on this stuff. So just be careful on that. Also, make sure that you see momentum, you see volume coming into the trade when you're trying to do any type of scalps in the options. Otherwise, you're going to wind up just losing your cash today off of it. So be very, very cautious with that, because we are really at a high volatility level. You will be paying more than normal for your premiums. So make sure that you are getting in at the right pinnacle time on these things. Y'all guys need anything, just hit me up in the voice chat. We'll be talking in there. We'll do our Q&A and charts broadcast over around noon today. If you Just join us into the Discord voice chat if you want to hear us talk about any of the charts throughout the day. You have a great morning.